plaintiff, Jan Hutcherson, was in her 20s when her father first told her that she may have a sister. Jan believes the defendant is that sister, so she petitioned the court for a DNA test. Defendant Tammy Morris has mixed feelings about the DNA test because she wants to believe that the man who raised her is her biological father. And if she and Jan are proven to be sisters, her entire life would be a lie.
All rise. This court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Greg Mathis presiding. You may now be seated.
Give me some background here, Ms. Hutcherson. Let's start with you.
My name is Jan Hutcherson. I'm here today petitioned the courts for a DNA test to find out if Tammy Morris is my sister. When I was in my 20s, my dad and I were having a conversation, and something came about a ring. And when he mentioned the ring, he had said that his comment was that my sister's mama bought it for him. And it confused me. I was like, what do you mean, my sister's mother? And at that time, he said, you have a sister. And I said, really? And he said, her name is Tammy. Well, in telling me this, I had remembered growing up in my grandmother's room, and Tammy's heard this story before, that there was a picture that sat on my grandmother's dresser. And nobody ever talked about it. And I was the nosiest one out of the whole family, I guess, for whatever reason. And I finally asked her one day, I said, who is that girl? My grandmother responded, Tammy, but she didn't offer any more information. And I really thought, oh, well, maybe that's somebody that something happened to in our family, and I didn't want to ask. Mm-hmm. But I thought at that time she looked like my cousin. So I just left it at that. Well, after my grandmother had died and my dad had told me that I had another sister, and why he offered to tell me at that time that I had a sister was beyond me, and really shocked me, because he knew if there was an investigator in our family, should have been FBI, it should have been me. And he was actually mad. Once he found out that I had found her, he was so mad at me, because he was like, I don't want to get in on it. All this time has passed. He said, let it go. You should have never contacted her. He was mad at me, but he shouldn't have told me, because he should have known I was going to go find her. And I did, and I found her.
Tell me how, and then how things went. Tell me how
I started by going to the courthouse, and I looked up her mom and dad and found her birth certificate and what her whole name was. My first contact was with, at that time, a mother-in-law that she had. And the mother-in-law thought that I was looking for her husband. And I had to explain the story to the mother-in-law that I wasn't looking for the husband.
That you was doing both, huh?
Yeah, I was looking for Tammy.
Looking for her and her husband.
Yeah, it kind of had me worried at that point. I thought,
you say, yeah, Tammy, just stop that. Go ahead. All right. So
then I was talking to somebody where I lived, and her boyfriend at the time ended up knowing who Tammy was, went to school with Tammy. So he helped me put some things together, which I guess is how I found her mother-in-law's number. Well, I want to say it was within 24 hours, but I'm going to say it was within the week. I had already arranged for Tammy to meet me at a restaurant in a public place.
How did you make that arrangement? I want to hear about the first contact by phone or otherwise.
I called Tammy. Sure, Tammy had called me back after I had left my message with the mother-in-law with the number. And Tammy had called me back, and we talked.
What did you say? I mean, I want to hear how you got around to telling her you might be my sister.
I just came to tell her what exactly my dad told me. And at this time, I'd already discussed with my mother, and my mother knew about it. And she told me what she knew. And I was telling Tammy, well, I think Tammy was mad at me at the time.
When you first met with her?
Yeah.
How did she react? Tell me how she reacted.
She came with all her siblings, and there was a slew of them, and most of them were boys. And like I said, I was in my 20s, and they weren't real happy with me, which I understand. I guess they thought I was trying to take their sister away, but I wasn't really trying to take her away. I was just trying to find out if I had another sister. But they weren't, nobody was real friendly, and there was a lot of arguments going on, and we just kind of left it at that, and like, well, whatever.
How did we come back around to it years later?
I never really let Tammy go because I believed with all my heart that if my grandmother had a picture of her, her mother had to give it to either my dad or my grandmother.
Okay.
So somebody believed it. And I just never lost contact. I've just always looked for Tammy and tried to keep up with her. And then once Facebook came and I friended her, it made it a whole lot easier for me to keep up with her. And then I found we had mutual friends.
Let me hear from you, ma'am.
Okay, Your Honor. I remember the day that I found out about all this. I was planning my daughter's first birthday, and it was 1994, May the 14th. I don't remember a ring. All I remember hearing about is the picture. And all I remember hearing from Jan was, I think you're my half-sister.
Let me ask you this. When she first called you, she told you why she was calling and why she wanted to meet?
Well, no, not at first. Like she said, she kind of tricked my mother-in-law. I don't remember if I called her or she called me.
But when she talked to you, why did she tell you she wanted to meet with you?
She said that she believed she was my half-sister. And
Okay.
I was like, well, I don't think so. Get out of here with that. No, I didn't want to hear that.
But then you decided to meet with her, and how did that go?
Because my parents had already passed away. They wasn't here. So I called the only one that I could call, which was my older sister, which was 20 years older than me. So my sister was wanting to do this meeting, and I wasn't. And we went to the meeting, and no, I wasn't very pleasant with Jan because I didn't want to believe what she was telling me. I said, maybe my mom conjured this up to get money out of your dad. I don't know. But I don't remember meeting the man. I don't remember nothing about him. So I'm still in shock about all this.
How have your siblings reacted?
Well, I've got 3 brothers left, and they're not happy campers right now with me or what I'm doing.
Upset with you because you reached out or because you agreed to try and...
Because I agreed to go ahead and do the DNA test and just put it to rest. Because I won't believe that my parents that raised me are my parents.
How often have you heard from her? She says that over the years she's been in touch with you.
Well, we've chatted, we've commented on Facebook several times, but in 26 years, no, we've never gotten together. We've never had lunch. We've never had dinner. Her dad did call me, and he told me to take everything that I was hearing with a grain of salt. And I guess that's what I did, Your Honor. So I moved on with my life and I guess I had it in the back of my head, but, I just went on with my life and didn't really keep in contact with her.
And
when we was at that meeting, my family was fire-breathing dragons. They was like she said. They thought, you're coming here, and our parents ain't here to ask these questions to. She had her parents to tell her something. I didn't.
Okay.
And I would like to say that her father had told me that it didn't work out the way that they planned. And I said, what do you mean by that? And he was like, well, basically my father was supposed to die before my mother did. And then it was all going to be brought out. And I'm like, well,
who told you that?
Her dad, Jan's
Sounds just
father.
like him.
It sounds like him?
It does. And I told her she was much better off.
Well, sounds as if you certainly are hoping it's positive, the DNA results between the two.
I am. I mean, I understand that she's not as excited because nobody ever mentioned it to her until I came. So I can understand that. But me having been told it is eating me alive. I don't want to die and not know. I have to know if she is, then I love her. If she's not, I love her anyway because I've loved her for 30 years. But I've got to know the truth for my heart, my well-being. I got to know. And I've attempted 15 years ago to find out, but there wasn't a test available according to the people that I talked to. They said we'd have to have our father or our grandfather. And so I really just thought all hope was gone until about a month ago when I was watching your show like I do every day.
Thank you.
And saw a sibling's DNA test come on. And the lights just went off, and I messaged Tammy first, and I said, look, if I did this, will you be willing? So I asked her before I did it. But yes, for me, it's probably a lot more exciting because I don't have family. I have my children, but I don't have, most of my family is gone. So just for me to know and to know that there is a sister out there would just, tickle me to death.
With your brothers, they're still alive, right?
Yeah, I have three brothers that are still
You think
alive.
if it's positive, they will embrace her?
I have no idea.
How about yourself?
Yes, I would. Yes, I would.
Good. Yeah, because a lot of people, it is mind-blowing and shocking. But let me say this, I kind of went through the same thing. I had sisters that came and introduced themselves to me that I wasn't aware of. And my father, who wasn't in my life, had them. And so when they learned of me, they came and introduced themselves to me, and it kind of blew my mind a little bit. But I didn't, and I had questions about whether I should accept or reject it, because what does this mean? But my thing was, at the very least, I'm going to invite them over when I have gatherings and introduce them as my sisters. And so that's what I suggest. And that's what I suggest to your brothers when they see this. I'm sure they're interested enough that they want to see the discussions and how things went in this case. So I would ask your brothers.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I got a lump in my throat, and if what she says comes to be true, it's going to take me a minute to process all that.
Well, once you process it, and ask your brothers to do the same, embrace in whatever manner. Brothers, listen to me. If it is true, and it is, she's your sister. So, hope you'll take my advice, process it, find the light in it, and look there, look toward the light, and try and find some other meaning in it.
Congratulations, Jan.
Oh, Tammy, I know it don't mean to you what it means to me, but I'm so glad because I've thought it. I told you my heart loved you a long time ago, and I wasn't going to stop if the results were negative, but I'm elated. I'm elated. I can't wait.
I'm not elated.
Okay,
I can't pretend that I am because I'm not. I mean, my world has just been crushed right now. And
I'm sorry.
I mean, the man that raised me, he did not falter in his love for me. If he knew about this, he did
Tammy,
not
that was your daddy. That was your daddy. I told you were much better off with the man you had than the man that I had, and that was the truth. Your mama did the right thing. You were raised by the right man. You wouldn't have got the love that you got from him, from my daddy.
And he sure gave it because I was daddy's girl. And I still am. It's just not going to change the way I think about my parents.
And I don't want it to. I don't want it to. If you belong to me, though, I wanted to know. I told you I wanted the big sister. I needed to know. If you got it. Me.
Well, Miss Morris, let me say to you that fathers don't necessarily come by blood. Fathers come by responsibility. And he was a responsible father to you. He was responsible for who you are today.
Amen.
Your father is responsible. We're not talking about, no offense, we're not talking about the donor. We're talking about the person that you know what I mean?
You say that. I wasn't going to say that, but go ahead.
You know I say anything.
I'm going home drinking a bottle of wine. I got a lot to process right here. I mean, and I don't drink.
Bye-bye, y'all. God bless you.
Thank you, Judge Mathis.
Lord have mercy.
We'll be in contact.
Terrific.
Yeah, we'll get in touch. All right, Tammy.